According to the admissions of Wehrmacht soldiers who fought on the Eastern Front, the main dangers for them were Russian infantry, tanks, and impassable mud. While the Germans eventually got used to the Soviet Union's enormous human resources and the pervasive roadlessness, and were no longer surprised, the constantly increasing number of thousands and thousands of formidable T-34, KVIS, and other Soviet combat vehicles caused them sheer panic. Throughout the war, leading German designers and engineers feverishly developed effective means of combating Soviet tanks. As a result, the latest anti-tank guns, armor-piercing shells, handheld anti-tank grenade launchers, Panzerschreck and Panzerfaust, and much more were tested and adopted into service. The Luftwaffe also did not stand aside from solving the problem of fighting tanks. At the Rechlin Test Center, a special group was formed under the command of the famous dive bomber ace and Knight's Cross recipient, Captain Hans-Karl Stepp. This group conducted tests with the famous Junkers 87 dive bomber in a new G modification, which was armed with two 37mm guns placed in underwing containers. The aircraft was specifically designed to combat tanks. 12 tungsten core projectiles easily penetrated the weak stern armor of any tank, so pilots were advised to attack from the rear. The modified Junkers was nicknamed Cannonenvigil and Fliegenpack by the Germans. One of the first German pilots to test the new anti-tank aircraft in combat was Hans Ludwig of the 2nd Dive Bomber Wing Immelmann. On March 17, 1943, south of Bryansk, he destroyed two tanks with 37mm shells and severely damaged two more tanks. It would be appropriate to devote a few words to this outstanding combat pilot who made a significant contribution to the development of new tactics and strategies. Hans Ludwig was born on February 6, 1921, in the small village of Gutchdorf, located near the town of Schweidnitz in Silesia. From April 1939, he began serving in the military Air Force and, having completed the appropriate training in various flight schools, became a qualified dive bomber pilot. Having arrived on the Eastern Front at the beginning of June 1942, he quickly proved himself as an outstanding air fighter. Dropping bombs with exceptional precision, he managed to destroy two armored trains, 6 railway echelons, 11 important bridges across the Don and Donets rivers, dozens of anti-aircraft and artillery batteries, trucks and carts. He also sank a large river steamship near Stalingrad, which had a large number of Red Army soldiers on board. Having switched to the Ju-87G, Ludwig in just 2 months, May and June 1943, shot down and sank 63 Soviet landing boats in the area of the famous Small Land as part of the 10th Special Anti-Tank Aviation Detachment of the Immelmann Squadron. In the battles near Kursk in Ukraine, in Romania, and in Poland, he destroyed 85 Soviet tanks, becoming one of the most effective Panzerknacker of the Luftwaffe in general. He caused great damage to Soviet troops. For these achievements, he was awarded Germany's highest military award, the Knight's Cross. In total, Ludwig flew 750 combat missions on the Eastern Front, in which he showed exceptional courage and valor. Suffice it to say that in battles, Ludwig was shot down several times, wounded once, and his 2 radio operators died. The third was wounded twice. And who knows how many more tankers and other Soviet soldiers would have fallen from the deadly projectiles of this ace, had it not been for an amazing incident that put an end to his career. This incident occurred on January 20th, 1945 in southern Poland. A group of 9IL, 2 ground attack aircraft of the 140th Guards Ground Attack Aviation Regiment, under the command of Guards Major A. Yakovitsky, and escorted by 4 Yak 1 fighters of the 156 Guards Fighter Aviation Regiment, led by Guard Senior Lieutenant A.F. Shamansky, took off on a combat mission to deliver a bombing and assault strike against the accumulations of enemy echelons at the Vosoka railway station. We ask you to subscribe to our channel and give a like so that you can hear many more exciting and interesting stories about World War II, as well as familiarize yourself with the opinions of all the participating sides about various events that took place in this global conflict. Further events, according to various sources, differ slightly from each other. So in memoir and fictional descriptions, Soviet aircraft successfully reached their target and set fire to several echelons at the Vosokha railway station with drop bombs and cannon fire, smashed dozens of wagons, a locomotive, and destroyed railway tracks. Then, during the second approach to the target, the ground attack aircraft and fighters unexpectedly encountered a large group of enemy aircraft, which led to a fierce air battle. However, the award document for the commander of the Soviet group, Yakovlitsky, says nothing about the raid on the railway station. On the contrary, it is written there that not reaching the target en route in the area of Lyublinets, the group encountered up to 20 Ju-87s under the cover of 12 Mi-109s and Fw-190s, which were heading to bomb the combat formations of Soviet ground troops. It should be noted that these were not simple dive bombers, but anti-tank aircraft, which we talked about earlier, from the 10 PZ/SG to Immelmann, which made the confrontation even more dangerous and dramatic. Since the documentary evidence is still much more accurate and truthful than the numerous memoirs published in the post-war period, we will continue to describe the events based on the data from the award documents, only slightly correcting the staff scribes of that time. 6 Mi-109 Fw-190 fighters and up to 10 Ju-87 dive bombers engaged in battle with the Soviet escort, while the remaining enemy aircraft attacked the group of ILS. The group leader, Yakovlitsky, decided that in order to facilitate the maneuvering of the group, he would drop his bomb load on the city of Lyublinets and engage in an unequal battle with the superior forces of the enemy in the occupied territory. Thanks to the skillful command and maneuvering of the group, in the fierce air battle that ensued, accompanied by several attacks, Comrade Yakovlitsky, with his skill, forced the enemy bombers to drop their bomb load on their own troops. In the course of the air battle, the group shot down 3 Ju-87 aircraft and 1 Mi-109 fighter, of which Comrade Yakovlitsky personally shot down 1 Ju-87. We will briefly interrupt the award documents and add a few words from fiction to clarify the names of the pilots who especially distinguished themselves in this air battle. The ground attack aircraft, freed from bombs, closed in around their commander and opened fire on enemy aircraft. Guards Major A. Yakovlitsky was the first to set fire to a Junkers. Then Guard Senior Lieutenant N.P. Pushkin, in a frontal attack, struck down the second bomber. Airgunner Guard Sergeant N.S. Nesterov knocked down another one with a machine gun burst. The second air gunner, Guard Sergeant Major A.P. Naumov, noticed a messer sneaking up from behind, hit it with a long burst from the machine gun mount, and it trailed a plume of smoke behind it. Soviet fighters repelled the fierce attacks of German pilots and also recorded 4 German aircraft. Guard Senior Lieutenant A.F. Shamansky shot down 1 Ju-87 and 1 Fw-190. Guards Lieutenant N.A. Smedina destroyed a Fokker, and Guards Junior Lieutenant V.G. Shuklin shot down a Mi-109. And now we will continue the description of the battle in the language of award documents, since here we are approaching the culmination of our story. In addition, the group's wingman, Guards Junior Lieutenant Ivanikov, having exhausted all his ammunition with his bold and courageous actions, showing exceptional courage and devotion to the motherland, went for a ramming attack on a Ju-87 aircraft, as a result of which the Ju-87 aircraft was shot down. In this heavy battle, Comrade Ivanikov died along with his gunner and his aircraft. It goes without saying that it is not possible to say with complete certainty how and what exactly happened in the air then, since the crew died heroically. However, in the list of irrevocable losses of the 8th Guards Ground Attack Aviation Division, it is clearly and unequivocally stated that the pilot, Guards Junior Lieutenant P. Ivanikov, died while ramming a German aircraft. The fact that it was indeed a ramming attack, and that the pilot went for it consciously, is also reported in German documents. Here's what they say about the death of Oberfeldwebel Hans Ludwig. During an attack on tanks, he was rammed by an IL-2 ground attack aircraft, while half of the right wing of the Ju Ju-87 aircraft was severed. The aircraft went into a spin and crashed into the ground near the village of Loben. Together with him, the flight director of the squadron, Lieutenant Herbert Weissbach, who was flying as a gunner on the aircraft in this flight, also died. Thus, by an air ramming performed by a ground attack aircraft, the best ace of the 10th Anti-Tank Detachment of the Immelmann Squadron was destroyed. This fact testifies to the highest heroism of Soviet pilots and their willingness to take the most desperate actions for victory. Of course, it is necessary to tell not only about the German ace, but also about the Soviet pilots who were able to defeat him in this unequal battle. What do we know about them? The pilot of the ground attack aircraft, Guards Junior Lieutenant Pyotr Panilevich Ivanikov, was born on June 23, 1921, in the village of Loteshskoy, which is now part of the Izmorsky district of the Kemerovo region, into a peasant family. He was Russian by nationality. After graduating from the 7th grade of a village school, he began working in production and lived at the Taiga station. He was drafted into the ranks of the Red Army on December 14, 1940, by the Taiga District Military Commissariat of the Novosibirsk region. In 1943, he graduated from the 1st Chkalov Military Aviation School, named after K.E. Voroshilov, where he gained the necessary knowledge and skills for piloting a ground attack aircraft. He was on the fronts of the Great Patriotic War from September 18, 1943, and fought on the Steppe and Second Ukrainian fronts. He took part in fierce battles and made his contribution to the fight against the enemy. For 12 successful combat missions, in which he destroyed 2 tanks, 5 vehicles, 1 pillbox, as well as inflicting significant losses on enemy manpower, destroying up to a company of soldiers and officers, he was awarded the Order of the Red Star on December 9, 1943. On May 1, 1944, while performing a combat mission in the Kotelaivan area, he was wounded and shot down in an air battle, but despite this, he was able to show courage and skill, reaching the front line and successfully landing the plane in his territory. By the beginning of June 1944, he had flown 41 combat missions, during which he destroyed and damaged up to 5 tanks, 12 vehicles with troops and cargo, 5 wagons, and blew up a munitions depot. For these combat successes, he was awarded the Order of the Patriotic War, First Degree, on June 28, 1944. After that, the brave pilot flew several dozen more combat missions, but the details of them, unfortunately, are not known. His contribution to the victory was invaluable, and his heroism deserves deep respect. The air gunner of the ground attack aircraft, Guards Junior Sergeant Anatoly Emelianovich Sorokalitov, was born in 1923 in the city of Belgorod. He was Russian by nationality. He lived in Moscow, from where he was drafted into the Red Army by the Rostokinsky, Kirovsky District Military Commissariat in 1941. He participated in the Great Patriotic War since 1943. At first, he served as part of the 15th Engineering Brigade of the RGC in the 69th Army. He fought on the Voronezh, Steppe, and 2nd Ukrainian fronts and was wounded twice in the battles. But despite this, he continued to fight for his courage in battle. He was awarded the medals for courage, March 16, 1943, and for military merit, September 5, 1943. From May 1944, he fought as an air gunner in the 140th Ground Attack Aviation Regiment. He fought on the 1st Ukrainian Front, where he took part in fierce air battles. By mid-October 1944, he had flown 20 combat missions, for which he was awarded the Order of the Red Star on November 5, 1944. After this award, he flew some more combat missions, and his contribution to the common cause of fighting the enemy was significant. It should also be added that the Soviet aircraft crashed on the territory occupied by enemy troops, and unfortunately, we have no reliable information about the burial place of the heroic pilots. In conclusion, it should be particularly noted that all the Soviet pilots who claimed to have shot down enemy aircraft in that unparalleled air battle were awarded for their exploits, all, except for Ivanikov and Sorokalitov. What a bitter irony of fate for this heroic crew, especially considering that, with the exception of the Ju-87 G2, Factory number 491216 of Oberfeldwebel Hans Ludwig, which was destroyed by ramming. The German side did not suffer any other losses in this battle. Goodbye. We were very glad to see you on our channel. Do not forget to leave your comments, give likes, and subscribe to our channel so as not to miss new interesting stories.